Hi there, my name is Monica Burns. I'm an edtech and curriculum consultant, a former New York City public school teacher, and I write at classtechtips.com and podcast on the Easy EdTech podcast.
Welcome to the show. Not a first time.
Yeah.
This is your second time. Last time, gosh, I believe it was 2017 or 18, and we were talking about New York pizza.
Yes,
oh,
I do
my
remember.
Gosh. Wow. Well, welcome. We are officially recording in person at TCEA in San Antonio, and it's a cold one out there.
It is really
It's
chilly.
rough.
I brought the New York weather, I think, by accident. Not entirely on purpose.
Well, thank you for doing that, Monica. We needed, my grass needed some rain, but man, was it was a challenge getting here this morning, but we made it happen. All right. So you have been in education for quite some time. You work with you worked in the New York public school system, and now you're doing your own thing.
Yep, exactly. So I taught in New York City public schools for a little shy of 7 years in a classroom setting. And then I started writing and about all things ed tech, sharing about all things ed tech, and started hosting professional development and workshops for educators in different part of the country, a couple international spots, and then of course writing and podcasting and thinking about ways to reach anyone who's really interested in learning more about all things classroom technology.
And I'm a subscriber to your show, so I like your format. You don't do a lot of interviews at all. It's mostly just your tech tips.
Yeah, and this year we've been playing around with the format a little bit, so you'll see more in 2023 of kind of the interview, and then the next week is just solo. So we're playing with we're keeping the structure the same, but playing with the format a little bit for 2023. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you need a guest, you just let me know. All right. I'll be happy to return that favor. Awesome. So ChatGPT, that's the big hoopla. Everyone's talking about it. There's this fear in people's hearts if you're a teacher. This is going to take away the legitimacy of student work and that. And there really is a teacher fear out there. We're not going to talk too much about all that craziness. Instead, we're going to take a different approach. You're going to talk about how teachers can use this in their daily lives to just make things a little bit easier for them, right?
Exactly. And I think it's important to acknowledge that anything new, we can get excited about it, but we can also be hesitant and cautious. We can hold all those feelings at the same time, right? And of course, even though this is not a student tool, it's not COPA compliant, right? It's not designed for students, right? So it's not something you should ask students to log into in your classroom for all of those important privacy reasons. But it doesn't mean that one of your kids over the weekend isn't going to go in and try it out and then tell everyone on Monday, right?
Yeah,
That's just
absolutely.
like anything. It's just like anything that can disrupt our classroom environment. So that being said, I do think it's important for us to understand all the ways that it works and just understand generally the impact. But what I have been most excited about, so much of my work is around working smarter, not harder, saving time, using templates, right? Making edtech easier is a term I use a lot,
Literally.
right? Literally all the time. So one thing that's really been exciting as I've been playing around is this can accelerate your workflow. This can write that first draft for you, and then you make the changes. This can help you with that, the blank page piece of this, right? And then you jump right in and it gives you a starting point. You're not going to copy and paste things in there, and we can talk about some prompts and examples in a moment, but it's more about getting you started, accelerating your workflow, saving you time, and giving you a chance to play around in a space that I think is going to become increasingly popular, not just for students, but all the different ways we interact in the world.
Yeah. I had a conversation with Matt Miller over at FETC. I don't even know if I could say those words here out loud, but at FETC last week, literally a week and a half ago, and he spoke about ChatGPT, and I asked him, the question I'm going to ask you in a bit is, how do you use it in your personal life? And he said, well, let's say I'm coming up with a document for my business, and maybe it's something with a legality. I'll ask ChatGPT to write up a real quick script or a real quick first draft, and then I comb through it and then make changes, and then we throw it over to the legal team kind of thing. And I had never thought about that. Never dawned on me. I use it for recipes and stuff like that.
I'm so glad you said recipes, and actually I was going to share this, and it's so just obviously what we're talking about here and your passions, right? One of my favorite things I heard, and I think it was TikTok, which is full of these random ChatGPT tips. Not that I'm advocating for anyone spending more time in any of these places, right? But just to say, I heard this on TikTok where someone said, yes, you can type in, I want to make vegetarian lasagna for 2 people and give me a recipe. But then you can also say, I want to make vegetarian lasagna for 2 people on Monday. I want to make eggplant parmesan on Thursday for 4 people. And then I want to finish out the week with, and you put in your third thing, make me a grocery list.
Oh, there you go. There's that hack.
Which I was like, there's that extra layer to give me the recipe, but then also save me, I could do all the math. I could add up how many onions I need, right? But this is going to give me something I can plug and play with, and it's probably going to be as close as I would do myself, right? Maybe even if there's a mistake, right? I would probably make 2 mistakes on that list.
Yeah. And whatever it says for the garlic, I would probably double it, because we do use a lot of garlic in our house. Good stuff.
Use your best judgment.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So teachers using ChatGPT, maybe a couple examples. What is one or a couple different ways that teachers can use this to enhance and really streamline what they're doing?
Yeah, so this week, this TCA week on Monday, I posted on my blog a post, and I might butcher the title here a little bit, but it's 10 things teachers can do with ChatGPT to save time, right? Something of that effect, right? And so I put some screenshots on there too of the different prompts that I've used to play around with this. And one of my favorites is make this email friendlier, concise, more serious, whatever it is. And so I like to think I write a good email. I do a lot of writing and emailing throughout the day, but sometimes you just want it to look a little different. You're like, this isn't super clear, or this needs to be a little bit more professional, and maybe I don't need all these exclamation points in here. Or this is something tough to say, or this sounds harsh when I wrote it, and I'm really not trying to be harsh for whoever I'm sending this to, right? I might just be in a little bit of a rush. And so you can put in that adjective, plug in your email, and then you can, see that new version. Of course, if you're teaching and you have some sensitive student information, you're not going to include that part of it, right? Yeah. You're not going to put someone's name or anything like that. But if you have a sentence or two that you're like, I don't love the way this sounds, or I don't think that's as put in the adjective that you're thinking, it can be super helpful. So that's one big thing. Another is also just an idea generation. And one of the examples I gave at FETC last week was give me resources for primary source documents about New Orleans. I could do a Google search for that, but then I'm searching through all these things, and
you got to comb through.
Got to really comb through it, and not to say that all of these are going to be fantastic responses, but it gave me 5 responses with a sentence description to tell me about each one, and now I know what I'm Googling. I'm Googling this historical society. I'm going to this resource, right? So it's helping me really narrow down and, again, work smarter, not harder, accelerating my workflow, and just being more efficient generally. And this idea of the type of question, you really have to be thoughtful in the question that you ask. And I found myself a couple of times even saying, that's not what I meant. And then I'm refining that question and kind of narrowing down. And then I get a response that's pretty close to what I was looking for.
As you were saying that, I thought of app smashing. Mm-hmm. App smashing. I might start something in Canva and then throw it in a Google slide and then Nearpodize it. Hey, Nearpod, shout out to you guys. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of app smashing with AI and search engines.
Absolutely.
So you take the information that ChatGPT throws out at you, you comb through it. Okay, I found my 5. These are pretty good. Now I know what to Google. So you're literally throwing that on the Google search engine. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I think it's those sort of creative ways, I think rightfully so, can be concerned that a student's going to say, write me a literary essay comparing, these 2 books, right? And we need to understand that that's a potential, right? But at the same time, if we can ask really specific, thoughtful questions, if we're really thinking critically on what kind of response we're even looking for, right, we can really get some interesting pieces of information that can give us a starter. Write me an outline for, might be useful, or give me some ideas for how to respond to this situation, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to use all those ways, but it's what, I never thought of that. Or yes, that is what I always do, and I'm just having a moment in my busy week, and I need this little reminder or this push. And I just finished this morning a session on formative assessment, one of my topics here at TCEA, and I did what I always do. I don't know how many times. dozens of times, I've asked the groups the question, what formative assessment strategies are working for you now? We put it in Mentimeter, and then I said to the group, I want to try something with you. And I showed them how in ChatGPT I typed in, what kind of formative assessment strategies do teachers use? And I'm not going to say it was a match to our Mentimeter, but it all gave us kind of like the, oh, whoa.
You had an aha moment.
Like,
everyone had an aha
this,
moment.
It did say exit tickets, or nobody said this, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not a replacement, but it's a way for us to like spark our thinking, come back to a big idea, and then take it in our own direction.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. I really like that email one, because that's something I've never thought about. Because there are times where I draft an email and I'm like, it's too wordy.
Yeah.
Or it's not enough words where people can kind of get, where people can read in between the lines a little too much. But if I'm too descriptive, then I'm back to the, it's too wordy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the harsh,
right.
per my last email.
Right. Scroll for our past responses where I already answered this question for
yes,
you, right?
Yes.
And, that wordiness or trying to be more concise, it's something that comes across we've all been there where kids, we give a task or a prompt, we've written it out, we posted it in whatever spot, and kids are still like, I don't know what she means, right? And maybe I didn't model well enough. Maybe I could have given a better example, or maybe I just wrote something that was pretty darn confusing because I'm up late trying to get this all together, right? All the things that we're doing. And so that might be the thing that says, simplify this task for students.
Yeah.
And there we are, right?
All the ChatGPT users that I speak with, I ask them this question, and I'm going to ask you this question as well. If OpenAI said, we're going to keep ChatGPT open, it's still 18 or over kind of thing, but we're going to charge $9.99 a month, would Monica Burns pay for it?
So I can't speak for everyone. I'm a small business owner, right? So I pay for podcasting editing. I pay for transcription service for my podcast, right?
Hosting,
all the things. So just using podcasting as an example. So right there, the amount of money I spend doing that, which isn't wild, but it's not negligible, right?
Correct.
Is an investment of my time I can use in other ways. So could I do that whole transcript by myself? It'd take me forever. Could I edit my podcast in GarageBand? I can, but I can pay someone else to do it. And then I can spend my time doing something else, right? So for me, if I'm going to rationalize spending $10, $20 a month, I often come back to that reallocation of my time. It doesn't always work, right?
Yeah.
That's not an equation that always works.
Maybe I'll skip it in March and April, but I'll come back in May during ISTE season.
Right, so sometimes that is an equation that for me as a small business owner works, but other times it's like, but I don't have, no, I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So in this example, the $10 a month that I would spend, I'm confident that I'm saving the brain energy that I could turn into a different part of the work that I do, as well as just maybe even, not just the efficiency piece, but maybe my responses will be stronger or better because I'm using this tool. And I pay $9 a month for Grammarly and don't really think too much of it, but that's an artificial intelligence tool that runs through my blog posts and makes sure that my tenses match, that I capitalize things correctly. And so it's been interesting for me to tackle, we think ChatGPT AI is new. No way. We're using it in all of these ways. And Adobe Express, when it shows me what colors are going to look really good next to my images when I'm typing in new text, that's artificial intelligence looking at the picture, making a decision before I can decide what shade of green is going to look the nicest.
Yeah. Okay. Good answer. I would probably pay for it too.
Yeah.
I would find a way to rationalize that.
Exactly.
That's like one lunch a month. I could do that. That's no problem. Absolutely. What other ways can teachers use it to streamline, be more efficient and effective? Because like you said, the most important time that we have as fill in the blank, I don't care if you're a construction worker, I don't care if you're a teacher, a human being, time is the most precious thing we have.
Huge. So some of the things we've talked about already with simplifying tasks that we give students, generating ideas for resources, and also generating ideas for feedback, right? What kind of things might I say when I'm looking at this piece of work? It's not a replacement for content knowledge or pedagogical knowledge, but it is that quick start on a busy day, right? Oh, right, this is kind of what I want to focus on, or this is important. It's also a way for us to really strengthen our own writing with some of those adjectives that we talked about already to kind of get those pieces in. So that's really where my head is at right now with some of those time-saving pieces. And I've been trying to play, and I would encourage other people to play. Like if you're going to go to Google or even YouTube, which is a massive search engine. I think we sometimes
top two in the world.
Right, we use Google as a substitute for YouTube when we say search because YouTube videos come up, right? But, before you go there, if you keep ChatGPT open on a web browser on your computer, try typing in your question there, like in the lengthier, not just like fun facts about polar bears or write your whole, like, this is what I'm really looking for, and put that in and then see what comes up. And if that makes your searches smarter or better, or maybe it's not going to fully replace how you use these other search engines, but it's going to give you some resources. And one thing that may have come up in your conversations with Matt and with others that I think is important to mention is that they're pulling resources with a gap, right? So this is not real time, like current events style information that you're getting, right? There's a little bit of a delay. So if you are searching for something that may be more current event specific or something more timely, one example I'll give is that I've tried a few times, say like, what are some hashtags I should put on a TikTok video about this topic, right? More because I'm curious to see if like my thoughts are aligned, right? And so a lot of times it'll come back with distance learning, remote learning, which not to say people aren't searching for it, but 2 years ago, absolutely I'd want that hashtag in. And so that's another thing to be mindful about in these spaces is that there are constraints. It can be kind of fun to work within constraints, but it's important to remember as you are unpacking the use cases that are going to be just right for you. And I put some of those prompts and I took screenshots of a couple of them in that blog post on my blog. So I've been tweeting them out kind of to be like, what do you think of this? What do you think about this? And I had a couple people even respond today about, what that might look like in their environment or why that example was, I think the feedback was the one that came back on Twitter to me today was like, that's a better example than thinking of some of the other things that, might feel a little messy. Yeah.
And that's really where the critical thinking comes in. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could think of that same topic or that same question, like what are some hashtags to use on a TikTok video I'm working on this particular topic. I could see myself pulling that into like a class warm-up.
Absolutely.
And saying, what's wrong with this? Mm-hmm. And then that's really where you start rationalizing and start thinking of, not everything on this is 100% accurate and timely.
And if you've taught especially early elementary school or even in a foreign language classroom, you might have done the exercise where you put the sentence for corrections up, right? Yeah. or you might just remember that as a student and going through and changing things. And it's kind of like that, right?